Hello everyone, the social landscape and post-war trends. I'm gonna have two lecture videos for this one, and the first lecture video I'm gonna skim through very quickly throughout all the photographs, all the images, the materials that we're gonna talk about. That's subjected to our discussion today, because we have many slides. Then the next lecture video, I'm going to go in depth into some photographs to reveal and uncover with you the backgrounds and the critical thinking that's involved into the appearance, behind the appearance of these photographs. So first, let's get started with this one question, right? Can you guess what the post-war trends can be? Post-war, which is the Second World War, and ended 1945, and in half a century, we've already experienced that the entire human families. We've already experienced two world wars. World War I at the beginning of the century, at the beginning of last century, and then here in the middle of the century, not even reached the middle of the century, we already ended the Second World War. What do you think what do you think the sentiments would be? The overall sentiments that the whole world population will feel? Maybe that's some kind of a segue into our topic today, photography since the post-war, since 1950. Would they feel very happy? Would they feel very optimistic about the world, the world that continue to unfold in the future? Or would they feel some kind of melancholy, some kind of desperation? Or would they feel hope? Would they feel some kind of hope that they're hoping the peace can last for much longer from this point and on? Let's take a look at the photograph of today. First, to introduce to you the Aaron Siskins, Jerome, Arizona. What do you see from this photograph? How would you describe it? Well, let me try to describe it for you, right? I would describe it as a zoom in, which is very different, very special, compared to the ones that we looked at before. Compared to, especially before this point, we've talked mostly, maybe photography as art, and then we talk a lot about street photography. We talk about photography as some kind of news reportage, photojournalism, which is, so we don't see much of this pure abstract zooming into something that's not a stable narrative. It's not a scene of someone's doing something. It's just abstract zooming in to a wall in this case. Interesting, right? Get more of Aaron Siskins, Chicago. See, he's naming all these places. He's naming the photograph with places. So it's using, right, this images as a representation of this larger area across the United States, as a way, zooming in, abstract photograph, as a new way, if you like, of documentary, of new way of documenting, of representing these different places. We have Chicago here. We have New York. Well, how are these related to the places that it was named after? How is this related to New York? Or how does it remind you of New York? Think about it. This is a quote by Aaron Siskin. if I can read it to you, the literal representation of a fact or idea can signify less than the fact of idea itself. A picture of a series of pictures must be informed with such things as order, rhythm, emphasis, etc., etc., qualities which result from the perception and feeling of the photographer, and are not necessarily or apparently the property of the subject. I have brought my picture-making qualities of expression that came out of my experience of music and literature. My belief in the meaning of abstract expression came from my love of music, and my use of metaphor comes out of my experience of poetry and literature. Poetry and literature, very important part in the making of his art, the making of his photograph. And then in the first paragraph, it explains what's the apparent thing, but the apparent, the very apparent emphasis, in the very apparent information, the very necessary, what appears to be the necessary representation information, doesn't necessarily relate to the property of the object, of the subject. What's related to the property of the subject is rhythm, the emphasis, and order. It's creating a new logic of documenting things, not the obvious one, not the obvious like Ouija's crime scene. Of course, we know it's you're taking a photograph of the dead, right? Something that looks so gruesome, so that raises eyebrows. But there is something more minute that could that get to the core representation much better than just the shallow documenting of the scene. Then we have Robert Franks. A little information about him, and then he traveled across the United States, had a road trip across the United States, that road trip also inspired a lot of many other photographers to travel across the United States to do street photography, to just take photographs as they see it, right? To redefine the FSA project. Remember Dorothy Lane, the migrant mother, right? That to photograph the United States that was steeped in the depression, but now Robert Frank wants to record this anew, because this is a different America. And then when he came back from his road trip, he compiled this many photographs into a book called The Americans. The Americans. It's a book, and it's a album for this photographs on this road trip, Robert Frank. And let's jump to his works. The trolley, New Orleans. What do you see here? You see the facial expressions. They're all looking at the photographer. And then we have this one. Robert Frank, Parade, Hoboken, New Jersey. Patriotic, right? We have the flag, American flag. Patriotic, but covers, accidentally covers one of her neighbor's face. And there's some kind of wall, right? Some kind of space, a white space rather, in between the two. What's the narrative? Again, this is a question that I ask again and again. What's the narrative? What is that one thing that with this series of photographs that he's trying to tell? What is that one story that he's trying to tell? Right, think about the photo essay, because The American is itself a photo essay by Robert Frank. What is he trying to document? Robert Frank view from a hotel window in Montana, in Butte, Montana. How is it, or maybe think about how is it, right? Try to recall all the photographs from the FSA project in which the government asked all these photographers to go across the United States to document the people who are living in difficulties, the financial difficulties that they're facing, and send those back to government so that they can make policy specifically cater to their need. So Dorothy Lane, Walker Evans, photographers like this, they take photographs, right, of these people living in dire need of resources. Remember this style. Do you ever see, like in Dorothy Lane's or many other photographs from that project, do you ever see a curtain blurring your side or limiting your side to the middle? So Robert Frank is definitely trying, compared to that project, Robert Frank is definitely trying something that's very different from photographers did in that project, for that project. Okay, I'm gonna deal with this quote later. And then we have another photographer, Diane Arbus. Another different way of doing a photo essay. So in this modules, the good thing is we have many good examples for how to do a photo essay, how to tell the story with things visual. Why? Because we can tell stories in so many ways. If I can remind you, we can tell stories in text. We can write a novel, right? I can just tell you verbally a story. Or I can sing a song with music. I can tell a story visual. I can paint to tell the story. But how about in this time, in this class, if with photographs? How do you tell the story? For example, in this one, Diane Arbus, what do you notice? You see the facial expression again because it's focused, right? Emphasis on the face and faces. Almost always for Diane Arbus, like confront her subjects right in the front, not many side shots, right? This is another photo by Diane Arbus, a Jewish giant at home with his parents in the Bronx. So this is a family. This is the passenger. And passengers. This is a baby. This is also something that's related to a family. A mother holding the baby. The title, Mother Holding Her Child. Again, the focus on the facial expression. And those facial expressions, they're not very in line a lot of the time with the notion or the very traditional notion of family. Do you see that kind of maybe joy or harmony and reunited sense? If not, if there's a gap between his facial expression and what's revealing about the family and the value of the family, so then what Diane Arbus is trying to get to? Again, many other family issues right here. Family on Their Lawn by Diane Arbus. This is another very famous one. Child with toy hand grenade in Central Park. Again, confronts the subject in a very straightforward way. And in the park, a child in the park, in this case, is not very happy. He's not sad either. How would you explain this emotion or this condition of his. You see the hands, right? The focus on the hands, hand grenade, the facial expression like this. Do you sense some kind of tension? If it's tension, then what Diane Arbus is trying to get to with this photograph. And remember, I'm showing you multiple photographs under one photographer so that you don't get a very biased and very limited view, right? Because again, each of them, they've produced great photo essays, and you're seeing some kind of examples of these photo essays, what they are trying to tell. Because before getting this one, she's actually captured many ones, and finally this one became one of the many that became very well known, or made her well known. Okay, moving on in this video. We have Gary Winogrand, also a street photography, because as you can tell, it's taken from the street in New York in this case. Laughing women. Another one from New York Central Park. Not just one woman, but there's a male, and it's African American male with some kind of chimpanzees in there. Really weird photograph. And they're walking in front of the crowd. And what happened to this one was Gary Winogrand capturing this photograph, this scene. Well, you see what's behind his mind when he hit the shutter. This is Gary Winogrand, photograph taken by his friend, because as his friend, right? We call that they were walking alongside each other in Central Park, and all of a sudden, Gary Winogrand pushed him to the side and sensed this moment and took a picture of this moment. And then his friend took a picture of Gary Winogrand doing the action. Okay, moving on very quickly. We have, let me see, with Lee Freelander, also a street photographer, also took a road trip across the United States to document the new America, the post-war America. No human figures, no human beings in the scenes. Interesting. And even the dog is being cut apart by the pole, possibly a light pole, or maybe traffic light pole. Lee Freelander, we have the shadow, the creepy shadow following the subject that he took a picture of, took a portrait of, but he actually want to take a photograph, take a self-portrait of himself, as he claims in the title. Then we will talk about the Family of Men, which is a exhibition of photographs that first exhibited in New York, a great hit, and then travel across the whole world, many countries, and also received huge hit at the time. And what's the function, and why was it such a, well, you can see, right? This is a scene when people are flocking to this exhibition, to want to see this exhibition. And why was it a success? And what does this success mean? The Family of Men. I'm going to show you very quickly.